Imagine Hollywood without Bruce Willis. It feels almost impossible because for decades his presence was more than iconic. It was foundational. He was not just another action star cycling through explosions and bravado. He redefined what strength looked like on screen. From the late 1980s onward, Bruce Willis brought something unexpected to blockbuster cinema: vulnerability. He was tough, yes, but also weary, sarcastic, flawed, and unmistakably human. Audiences didn't just watch him defeat villains, they watched him endure. That balance of grit and quiet emotional depth reshaped the modern cinematic hero, making him relatable rather than unreachable. But while the world continued to celebrate the legend, something subtle was shifting behind the scenes. Changes that did not announce themselves loudly, but instead arrived quietly, altering the rhythm of his life long before anyone fully understood why. The silence before anyone asked questions. Long before headlines appeared or statements were released, Bruce Willis began to pull back from the public eye in ways that were easy to overlook. Film sets grew quieter around him. Dialogue was shortened. Scenes were adjusted. These changes didn't spark controversy. They sparked care. Cast and crew adapted instinctively, guided by respect rather than explanation. There were no dramatic confrontations, no whispered accusations, just a gentle recalibration of expectations. Those closest to him sensed that something deeper than fatigue was at play. But in an industry that moves fast and values discretion, silence became a form of protection. For years, Bruce had given everything to his craft, and now those around him gave something back: patience. Subtle changes that carried heavy meaning. In the early stages, the signs were small enough to rationalize: a missed cue here, a pause there. Moments where words seemed just out of reach, like a thought interrupted mid-flight. On set, directors began structuring scenes with greater care, breaking dialogue into manageable sections and allowing more time between takes. These accommodations were made quietly, without spectacle, because no one wanted to turn concern into intrusion. At home, however, the shifts were harder to ignore. Conversations sometimes stalled. Familiar stories were repeated. These moments were not dramatic, but they carried emotional weight, especially for a family who had known Bruce as quick-witted and endlessly sharp. Still, no one rushed to conclusions. Love does not begin with alarm. It begins with understanding. A family watching closely and gently. Within the privacy of their home, Bruce's family responded not with fear, but with closeness. They listened more carefully. They slowed conversations. They learned to sit with pauses rather than filling them. Emma Hemming Willis later reflected that there were moments when Bruce seemed to chase words he once held effortlessly, hesitations that gently disrupted familiar rhythms. These moments were painful, but they were also intimate, drawing the family closer together. Rather than correcting him or drawing attention to the changes, they offered reassurance through tone and presence. Humor still surfaced, flickering through conversations like echoes of earlier days, and those moments became treasures rather than expectations. Choosing compassion over speculation. Friends noticed changes too. Though Bruce remained warm and welcoming, his signature charm still appearing in flashes that reminded everyone of who he was and always would be. As the pattern grew more noticeable, the family made a conscious decision. They would prioritize Bruce's dignity above all else. They would not allow curiosity to override compassion, nor would they let rumor define his story. While quietly seeking answers, they resisted the pressure to explain anything publicly. Silence during this time was not avoidance, it was devotion. It was the space they needed to understand what was happening without exposing Bruce to unnecessary scrutiny or fear. When answers finally arrived, the diagnosis brought clarity and heartbreak in equal measure. Learning that Bruce was living with frontotemporal dementia explained years of subtle shifts, changes in language, decision-making, and emotional expression that had once seemed disconnected. For the family, the diagnosis was not an ending, but a turning point. It reframed the past and redefined the future all at once. Doctors helped them understand what this condition meant, how it progressed, and what adjustments would be necessary. Knowledge did not erase the pain, but it gave shape to it. For the first time, uncertainty had a name. Seeing the past through a new lens. In the days that followed, memories resurfaced with new clarity. Conversations that once felt confusing now made sense. Moments of frustration softened into understanding. Emma later shared that once they understood the diagnosis, the past aligned in ways that were both comforting and devastating. What had once felt random now formed a pattern. And while that realization carried grief, it also brought peace. There was no longer a need to question what had gone wrong. Nothing had gone wrong at all. Something had simply changed, and change, while painful, could be met with love. Building a new rhythm of life. With clarity came intention. The family shifted their focus towards stability, creating routines that emphasized calm and familiarity. These changes were not dramatic or performative. They were quiet, thoughtful choices designed to help Bruce feel safe and grounded. Environments were simplified. Schedules were softened. Interactions became slower and more deliberate. Loved ones learned to measure time differently, not by productivity or achievement, but by presence. Each day became less about what was lost and more about what could still be shared. Laughter, music, touch, and the comfort of being together. Redefining connection. Those closest to Bruce learned to interact with him in new ways, embracing moments as they came, rather than expecting them to follow old patterns. Conversations were allowed to wander. Silence became acceptable. There was a shift from anticipation to acceptance, from fixing to simply being. One family member later reflected that the diagnosis didn't close their story. It reshaped it. Every interaction became an act of compassion, every decision a reflection of love. The future was uncertain, but the commitment to face it together was unwavering. Speaking as one family. When the family eventually chose to speak publicly, they did so as a unified circle. Emma Hemming Willis, Demi Moore, and Bruce's daughters released a joint statement rooted in honesty and care. Their words were measured, clear, and free of sensationalism. They did not seek sympathy, they sought understanding. The statement reflected one voice, not many, a collective decision shaped by months of private processing and emotional preparation. This unity sent a powerful message. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. A deliberate decision to be open. Their choice to speak publicly was not impulsive. It came after long conversations and careful reflection. They understood the weight of sharing something so personal, especially in a world that often consumes vulnerability without context. But they also recognized the value of clarity. By addressing the situation directly, they could replace speculation with truth and frame Bruce's story with dignity rather than rumor. Demi Moore later reflected that they knew their message had to honor Bruce fully, without minimizing reality or exaggerating it. Transparency for them was an act of respect. Unity. Behind closed doors. Beyond the public statement, unity became their daily practice. Family gatherings grew quieter and more intentional. Conversations focused on care strategies, emotional boundaries, and mutual support. They checked in with one another frequently, sharing observations and feelings openly. Fear was acknowledged but not allowed to isolate them. Their connection deepened, shaped by shared responsibility and shared love. This united front was not performative. It was lived, reinforced every day by choices rooted in compassion rather than control. Emma Hemming Willis. Steps forward. As the journey continued, Emma Hemming Willis naturally emerged as the family's steady public voice. Balancing advocacy with protection, she spoke with clarity about Bruce's condition while preserving the dignity he deserved. Her presence was calm but resolute, revealing the emotional weight she carried without allowing it to overwhelm her message. Through interviews and statements, she transformed fear into purpose, becoming an unexpected guide for families navigating similar challenges. Her words were never dramatic. They were grounded, human, and honest. The weight and meaning of understanding. Emma later described understanding the diagnosis as both a blessing and a burden. Knowing what was happening brought relief, but it also came with the responsibility of navigating a future shaped by uncertainty. She learned to speak with precision, never oversharing, never distancing herself from the truth. Advocacy became something she stepped into gradually, not as a role she sought, but as one she recognized was needed. In telling their story, she discovered that honesty could be a bridge rather than a burden. Advocacy born from love. Emma's willingness to speak openly brought visibility to frontotemporal dementia, a condition often misunderstood or overlooked. Families around the world connected with her words, finding comfort in knowing they were not alone. Messages poured in from caregivers and loved ones who recognized their own experiences in hers. Emma acknowledged that if sharing their story helped even one family feel less isolated, it was worth it. Through her openness, uncertainty transformed into community, and silence gave way to shared understanding. Strength at home. At home, Emma's strength took a quieter form. She restructured routines, coordinated medical guidance, and created an environment designed to support Bruce's sense of calm. She learned to anticipate his needs and encourage the family to approach each day with patience and flexibility. Yet she never presented herself as unbreakable. She spoke openly about leaning on friends, family, and support systems, acknowledging that caregiving reshapes a person in profound ways. Her honesty reinforced an essential truth: strength does not mean doing everything alone. A career seen differently. Bruce Willis built his career portraying characters who ran toward danger, but his diagnosis invited audiences to revisit that legacy through a more human lens. Fans began rewatching his films with renewed appreciation, noticing moments of vulnerability beneath the toughness. What once felt like action spectacle now appeared as emotional endurance. His characters were not invincible, they were resilient. That distinction became central to how his work was remembered. The everyman hero. Reconsidered. For years, Bruce was celebrated as the everyman hero, the cop who wouldn't quit, the lone figure standing against impossible odds. Looking back, those performances revealed something deeper than physical courage. They showed emotional persistence, a willingness to endure fear, doubt, and isolation. Critics and collaborators noted how he balanced intensity with restraint, conveying strength without denying vulnerability. In this new context, his appeal was no longer about dominance, but about relatability, authenticity as his true power. As conversations around his legacy evolved, admiration grew for the authenticity Bruce brought to his roles. Moments of pause, reflection, and quiet resolve took on new meaning. Industry voices observed that his power never came from being untouchable, but from being real. The connection between his on-screen humanity and his real-life journey became unmistakable, reminding audiences that courage is not defined by invincibility, but by presence. Why their words matter. The family's decision to speak openly resonated far beyond Hollywood. Their honesty brought attention to frontotemporal dementia and challenged misconceptions surrounding cognitive conditions. By naming the diagnosis and explaining it with care, they helped normalize conversations many families struggle to have. Medical professionals emphasize the importance of awareness, noting how clarity can lead to earlier understanding and better support. The family's words did not just inform, they empowered. Turning pain into understanding, families facing similar challenges found strength in the Willis family's openness. Many shared their own stories, describing how hearing a public figure speak with compassion helped them find language for their own experiences. By addressing the reality directly, the family replaced speculation with truth and reframed Bruce's story as one of dignity rather than decline. This approach highlighted the importance of responsible storytelling, something they approached with intention and care. A legacy defined by love. In the end, the story of Bruce Willis is not defined by diagnosis, nor solely by the roles that made him famous. It is defined by the people who chose to walk beside him as the world changed. His family's honesty revealed something deeply human: the way love adapts, strengthens, and expands in the face of uncertainty. Their voices reminded us that legacy is not measured only by applause or box office success, but by the courage to face difficult truths together and the grace to hold one another when clarity is hard to find.